Hello and welcome back, dear listener or viewer, to the Agent of History podcast. Welcome back to this journey of exploration into these two questions of how did we break and how do we heal. Here you'll find interviews with guides who can help us through the terrain that we need to explore in order to uncover and develop answers to these two questions. Today's guide is Stina Deurell. Stina is the founder of an incredibly powerful meditative practice an organization called Wider Embraces, and this has been her primary focus for the last 10 years. Stina is also a creative and renowned nature photographer and has been a self-employed web developer and graphic designer for more than 20 years. Stina has been involved with the Swedish environmental movement since the 1970s, both as an employee and on the board of several organizations. Stina holds a third-degree black belt in Aikido and has been practicing both transcendental meditation and Zen meditation, and is a Reiki master. Stina was one of the leading members of Malmö Integral and on the board of Holma College of Holistic Studies, and she describes her main characteristics as curiosity, creativity, and a bit of stubbornness. The conversation that follows with Stina does not take a necessarily clear linear trajectory, but is an extremely rich and important conversation and generates, for me, fundamentally essential, important answers to these two questions of how did we break and how do we heal, particularly the second question on how do we heal. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Stina, thank you so much for giving us your time today and being part of my journey and everybody watching or listening to this, their journey, this journey into these two questions. How did we break and how do we heal? So let's begin with this first question. How did we break, Stina? How did we break?
Yes, and for me, I really like the question. They told it to me a long time ago, or at least months ago. So I've been playing with it, and I don't see it as broken. I see that we are breaking the planet. That's really true. But I see us as an expression of what's going on in this universe, in life on planet Earth. And it's just the same forces moving through us that is moving through everything else. It's not really any break. The problem is the continuation. And for me, it's a forgiveness in that. It's such a deep forgiveness. And that actually answers your second question, how do we heal? And for me, that is forgiveness. See that it's not us, we're not wrong. To learn to see the forces moving through us and dance with them instead of reacting, say it's not me, it shouldn't be, I'm wrong. To see how it's a force and then learn to dance with it. So I'm dancing with your questions.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And on this deepest level, where there is no break, there cannot ever possibly be a break or broke. But at the same time, of course, but at the same time, as you say, objectively, scientifically, empirically, we are breaking the planet, which means we're breaking ourselves. And of course, the question resonates because how so many people feel to varying degrees is broken. We feel so broken. I can add some other words to brokenness here, like fractured or fragmented, or of course separated, alienated from each other, from our natural environment, from ourselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just important to sit in that and with that, whilst insisting that at the same time, which is so important, to tell everybody that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah. And for me, what I've been working with very much the last months are 3 forces. And where I'm coming from is a wider embraces method. And we work with really sensing into the physical world, from the universe to atoms, sensing into life, from the single cells that started life to humans and all ecosystems, and also sensing into the human culture and our evolution. And I started to sense that there are 3 forces that are going through all 3 of them. And can I take time and do
Of
a little?
course. So just to
Yeah.
be clear, the 3 forces, are we talking about the physical, the
No,
biological?
no.
Oh,
Those
sorry.
are realms. I would call
Sorry,
them.
the realms, the
Yeah.
3 realms are the physical, biological, and cultural. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. And then the forces are expansion, exploitation, and increasing complexity.
Mm-hmm.
And you can
Expansion.
function in all
Yeah.
directions,
Yeah. Expansion.
using all available resources,
Mm-hmm.
consuming what's available,
Mm-hmm.
and increasing complexity.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the physical universe, I mean, it all started with expansion.
Yeah.
We are still expanding. It's what's going on here. A star is burning until it's used all its fuel. It's not no restraints. No, oh, I shouldn't burn all of it. It's you burn all of it. And increasing complexity. We started with just a soup of particles forming atoms, forming planets, stars, galaxies, more and more increased complexity. You have the same in life. Started with one single cell. Life on Earth, dividing, filling up the whole planet. If that cell hadn't had that urge to fill up the planet, we wouldn't be here. And all life is using all resources, all the available resources. I have a bird feeder in my backyard, and they are really using it. It's not, oh, maybe we shouldn't eat all of it today. Maybe we should have it tomorrow. No, they just use it. And complexity, of course, from that single cell. Now we are sitting here, trillions of cells working together. It is an amazing complexity. And in the culture, it's the same. We have this urge to go out on the planet. We started in Africa. We're not still there. We're still there, but we are also this exploring new ideas, new things. This conversation is a part of the expansion of human consciousness. We love to do that. And it's also, we're using I'm using all the words I know and all the ideas I know to communicate. And the complexity is also increasing all the time. And now we have the internet and we have all this, and it's just this boom of complexity. And these are really forces. When we do them braces, we really sense into them. You can feel them go through and being expressed in all these ways, and sense them in myself, and also sense that without them, no universe, no life, no human culture. So it's, yeah, they are so essential. And then on the other side, boundaries and sensing into what is limiting. How are these forces? What are the counterbalances? And yeah, the universe is expanding. We don't know if there are any counterbalances there, but in life, it's around planets. It's very easy. And when it's come to consuming exploitation of all resources, I mean, either it's depletion or it's circulation. You find it's one way or another you're going to circulation instead of depletion, like ecosystems do. We haven't really figured it. We are starting to figure it out in the cultural. And complexity, I think, is really, really interesting because you have these emergent levels. You have cells, and then the cell become more complex, but on a certain time in history, instead it become multi-cell organisms. It's really a step. And I think what we need to do is become a multi-individual species and a multi-species planet. And it's a step in consciousness, a step in who we are and another level.
I don't know a lot about this moment in the evolution of life on the planet, but I remember learning that this, however many billions of years it was, that there was just single cells. There was a moment of deep crisis. It took this crisis of the prospect of its extinction to maybe create this the conditions of necessity for this evolutionary leap to take place. And as you say, now with these trillions of cells working with a consciousness of some form of each cell as a part of the whole, and and actually understanding like cancer as when the controls for this like are lost in the cell, and the cell begins to effectively colonize, so there's a powerful analogy with colonialism there, and the cancering of and the colonization of the territory of our bodies by the cells, the cancerous cells. But what I wanted to ask then is bring in wider embraces, because essentially your last point is that this is the moment now, at this moment of existential crisis and profound brokenness, in the sense of we breaking the very foundations of life, that we need to evolve to a state of consciousness, that we become conscious of ourselves as parts of a whole, and of the whole, and which brings us to wider embraces. And the reason why I was so excited to have this conversation with you, because I've experienced wider embraces meditation a few times now, and I just there aren't words to well, we need to find the words because it's an interview, but I was moved by it so deeply, and its power to help us do just that. So maybe you could talk about wider embraces, what it is as a practice, as a philosophy, and how you developed it, how it's come through you.
Yes. Yeah, it started 10 years ago when I went out on a journey. It was sort of a calling. So I was traveling around Europe and Africa for a year. And then after a year, the question, who is embracing, just came to me in the way I knew, okay, this is what I'm going to do and explore. So it was just really asking this question, who is embracing? and I started to get some kind of glimpses. And I had a group of friends, Integral, Ken Wilber friends. So we started to work with a question together. And then it has just emerged out of that question, step by step. And now and then I think, oh, now I got it. I understand all of it. And then something new emerges. And right now we have a method. So it's a sort of a guided meditation. And there are 7 steps. So one person is guiding, and mainly I'm the guide, but there are also other people learning to guide. And I really look forward to having much more people. I would like this to be something you do. So you start with becoming aware of sort of your separateness, because that's also part of it. And then you become aware of how you're connected to everything around you, from universe to a group of people. So you can focus on, you can do it for private things, for your family, or yourself, your company, organization, or you can work with planet, biosphere.
So we're talking about the embrace of all of these entities. So
Yeah.
I'm going to push you a bit. So what is,
Yes.
because obviously everybody watching this or listening to this,
Yeah.
So what is an embrace?
Yeah.
What is an embrace? And why, I guess there's 2 questions. What is an embrace, and why does the word embrace capture it so well? So, perfect.
Yeah. It's called wider embraces because that was a word that came to me.
Yeah.
And you can also see it as a morphic field or a field, but it's not. It's also the content and the awareness, the pure awareness of it. So it's something with borders, something unconditional. The planet has borders, so you can take it because I'm part of it. This is key. Why it works. You have to be part of it. I can't be part. I'm not part of the embrace of your family, so I can't sense into that. But because I'm part of my family or the planet, I'm also part of the awareness, like the cells in my body. They have their own little sense of self, probably, but they're also part of me. So they can sense me, even if they can't make sense of me, they can sense that they are part. And we have the same capacity for everything we are part of, sensing into the subjectivity. Our languages are not made for this. That's a problem. And you know that. I use words and it's just pointers, but this pure awareness, how it is to be it.
Of course. So anybody, experiencing this conversation, I'm going to say experience it, and you can go to the website and you can contact Stina, and this is a deep experiential, it's a mystical experience. That said, actually, I found your website really helpful, probably maybe because I've already experienced it and then I went to the website, like the words made, but there is, I think that the intellectual element, like it does matter. I was thinking before, actually, it came to me during, we did a little meditation just to ground ourselves before this conversation. And what came to me actually was when you said we can feel into the embrace of the planet, for example. actually what came to me was a vision of our planet. And actually that vision would not have been available to me before 1969 or whatever it was, or no, maybe a bit before then, that actually images taken from outside, this overview effect it's called. So actually me to be able to mentally make this image, like, I think helps, to connect to the deeper sensing, but nonetheless, like, we're talking about an entity that is, and that it is, and therefore there is something that it is not. So it has these borders that you say that we can feel into, and this, what's amazing about it is, though that may sound very esoteric and abstract and immaterial. Of course, it's not material, but when you feel it, it's undeniably visceral in your system. And of course, for so many years you've been doing it, that in a scientific way, with trial and error, you come to, every time you do it, you have ever deeper or a greater sense of confidence that other people are feeling this, and it's not just me feeling this, and that's the experience I've had. So obviously you've had thousands of experiences like this to come to a very high degree of certainty that what I feel with certainty in my body is also being felt in the bodies of others I'm sharing the space with.
You're pointing to a very important thing. I wouldn't have been able to hold it if that wouldn't have been the case. And it's amazing. And you go to space and to an embrace, or you actually can also take it as your perspective. So you see as the embrace, and then people just talk, and it doesn't matter who is talking. We are sharing the experience, and it's and also, as you said, it's a scientific worldview we're using as our map. And I'm sure a lot of the mystics during all time have tapped into these embraces, but they didn't have the map of planet or galaxy or solar system. So we are able, because of this, to see those things, and we use the mental images as navigation, and then the embrace is more of a sensing, both on the subtle and causal pure awareness level.
And coming back to this question of so we need to raise our consciousness to experience ourselves in this I can't remember the word you use,
multi-individual species.
Multi-individual. And this doesn't mean a negation of the individual whatsoever. I would say it's a complete fulfillment of the individual, but it's the individual as an integral part of the whole. And so why I'm so excited about Wider Embraces is because it does just this. It gives us this very experience. It gives us this experience, and you can share this. The vocabulary that you've used, I've forgotten, and it's really actually very helpful. But it's basically the experience of the individual as feeling herself or himself as a part of the whole, and then also experiencing, having the experience of the whole, of the embrace, experiencing itself, as made up of all of these parts.
So the processing capacity is our brain, this us making sense of it, but the awareness, I can tune into one of my wider embraces. And of course, I can't know how it is to be the planet or the biosphere, just as my cells can't know how it is to be Stina, but they can sense, and I can sense it and make sense of it in the best I can. And get insights. And that's also one thing why I also trust the processes, because the perspective, you have one idea of how it is to be the planet. We have a lot of ideas. And then you go there and it's something else. You experience something very different, and it's a new perspective. And for me, get those perspectives are really important. Seeing things from other places, and the forces I talked about, they're part of that. You get those insights. It's not and sensing them. So it's not a thinking. It's a thinking afterwards. You start to sense. You get the insights, and then you make sense of it. So it's
And what are the words that you use to
and become it?
No. I was thinking about these. Maybe it's like introspection and outro, or no? What are the words? There's these technical words you use, like for the parts to see the whole, and the whole to experience the parts. There's some really helpful vocabulary.
I rest in the embrace. Is it that?
No, it doesn't matter.
I become aware of the embrace.
No, not the words of meditation.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
I was talking about the terms on your website that are really helpful. Yeah, I mean, for me, just maybe it's my kind of way of learning, but these,
I know what you mean. Interrelational and transrelational and introrelational.
Right. So let's define, maybe we can just define these really briefly, because they help me and maybe they help others. So interrelational is basically how we experience the world right now. Like,
it's everything. I mean, I'm here, you're there. And the funny thing is, we use the same words of separation. When I'm talking about Sweden, it's Sweden as if Sweden was separate from me. It's me here and Sweden. It's me and my family. So we all the time. It's a separation.
Yeah.
So in the embraces, we have the transrelational, and that's when I sense that I'm part of the embrace. So my transrelational, so it's not, if I take my family, it's not my relation with my siblings and peers. It's with the embrace. It's part to the whole. And that's very different. And when I change perspective and become the embrace, and I relate to my parts, it's introrelational.
Introrelational.
Yeah. So it's moving, looking inside me.
And this is it's kind of like holographic in the sense that so interrelational is entirely me, and I'm in this separate relationship, me and you and all of this. Then the transrelational is that I come to experience myself deeply as part of the whole, of the embrace. But this introrelational this introrelational is kind of holographic, as I understand it, in the sense that just as you were saying before, is that I cannot truly have the experience of the consciousness of the biosphere, of the consciousness of planet Earth. However, as one small but essential element of the embrace of planet Earth, I can have, and the more I do it, the more I can have great insights that I can experience and make sense of, and in this intra-relational experience through the wider embrace. But that experience is holographic in the sense that in any part of the hologram, one can have a vision of the whole, but at a lower dimension, at a lower resolution, I should say.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
I have, I'm part, everything I'm part of, I also have access to the whole.
Yeah.
But in the lower resolution, yes.
And of course, the larger the group that does the embrace meditation, then the more, you know, low resolution perspectives we have, then we can build up a stronger understanding or experience of the introrelational.
Yeah,
Is
I
that?
think I don't really know
No.
exactly this. It's really
Yeah.
what we are experiencing,
Yeah.
and how much. I mean, we know that the more we work with an embrace, the easier it becomes, and it changes. And when you work with a more narrow embrace, as like your family, things actually happens. The system heals, or align. I love the word alignment. I think that was, so when I take the perspective as my family and I lean inwards, so it's an interrelational from the embrace to all my parts, and I just let everything align and find its place. Things happen. I've been working with different types of healing before, and I find then it's you have this idea of the channeling and you are doing it. I really much prefer just letting things align themselves, and I'm sort of supporting it, embracing it.
So this is that's a very important principle, a fundamental principle to emphasize, isn't it? That really what you're saying, in other words, if I understand you correctly, that life wants to heal. Life wants to come into alignment, and it has a natural force that moves towards that state of balance, that state of alignment, that we as the smaller egoic I needs to get out of the way, so that the deeper I can come into alignment with life itself, that this healing, this alignment can emerge and do what it wants to do.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I would say that the interrelational, I mean, this between with manifest, there you have the evolutionary friction. You need that as well. And then the embraces are the ones keeping it, the healing, aligning. So it's a sort of two forces. I mean, what is holding us together? The scientists can't explain how all these trillions of cells are living together, and the form is kept. So I see it as a very stable embrace with layers that we share with.
I just when you said that the interrelational creates a friction that is necessary, I presume you mean necessary for our continued evolution.
Yeah.
So
for everything.
So we're talking about the contradictions or the antagonisms that need to be worked through to kind of move things forward, or how does this, what is this friction? How do you understand this friction in the interrelational realm?
I mean, the birds in my backyard having free. I mean, who is the best to take the seeds and avoid the hawk? For humans, every conversation is sort of I mean, friction is not something bad. It's just parts are changing each other. So yeah,
I understand. I mean, the way I understand that is in a dialectical way, that there are especially from a Marxist point of view, that there are forces in society around production and relations of production.
Yes.
So we've gone from like slavery, master slave, to the lord and the serf, and the capitalist and the worker, and it's through these antagonisms, these structural systemic antagonisms and contradictions, that the evolution, in the sense of the yearning and for freedom, for autonomy, is driven, and the many, and of course you've already spoken about the forces of expansion and containment that are also in a constant adjustment for alignment to come through. So it's just explore. One thought that would be good to explore. So we've already, or you've already defined, in terms of the second question, how do we heal? You've already defined healing as alignment, as realignment, and I'm very open to that, very, very strongly open to that.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could bring in this conversation, or this question, or this issue of forgiveness, because I know you've been holding this recently, and how that comes into this process of healing or alignment.
Yeah. To see that we are part of those forces. It's not, we didn't invent exploitation. We didn't invent expansion. And we became this really, really strong. We invented culture. And in the physical, it takes billions of years to something new to emerge. Biology, it's going much faster, and culture is this really fast-moving thing. And it's to just in a few. I've been pondering all the oil and coal. I was in another meeting where we were feeling into different things, and I happened to feel into these massive layers of sunshine that is just, it was produced between 200 million and 65 million years ago. It was a lot of plants and algae that didn't really decompose. So it turned into coal and oil, and it was laying there for millions and millions of years, waiting for one species to become clever enough to find it. And that happened to be us. And we found it and started to use it. And then the deal is, the moment you find it, you have a few generations to stop yourself from burning it all. You have to figure out that the planet is round, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and it's not a good idea. In a few generations, using the resource to do the research and the communication and form a planetary sort of government or restriction organizations, and agree you have to become one humanity, and you have to restrain yourself in a few generations when you find this resource.
It reminds me of E.F. Schumacher, who was head of the coal board in Britain after the Second World War, which was a major position of power in this country. Obviously, that was the largest source of energy. And he once said, to paraphrase him, he said, "Humans are far too clever to live much longer without becoming wise." So really what you're saying is that in a few generations, we needed to go from being clever to being wise.
Yeah. And when I think of this, I mean, the deal isn't fair. It's just, it was it's too much coal and oil on this planet. It's a setup is really a challenge. When I found this, I was really angry at the planet. I mean, it's not fair. This challenge is just too much. And if I think we're doing pretty well. Actually, we have used that stored sunshine to understand those things and start to build a global culture, and started to negotiate and understand. So instead of blaming ourselves, I would actually say we are doing very well. If you look at the setup.
Well, yeah, I received that, but I still find a lot of discomfort in that. And I know that's something that, because I know that when people do the wider embraces, they can do the I am the atoms and the stardust, no problem. I am the planet and the biosphere, no problem. But I am human culture. There's a lot of pain. And right now, if I was from the Ogoni people of the Niger Delta, who have had their whole culture attacked and have been the subject of murder and torture at the hands of the Nigerian government and Shell Corporation, I'd be like, I'd probably find that very hard to go with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's the deal. And that's one of the reasons I think this is wider embraces is really important, because it is a path to do it, because we have to. We can't solve this without. We can't solve it by fighting each other. It's just not the way. And I've been a part of the environmental movement in Sweden since the 70s. So I know about this blaming, shaming, demonstrations, all of that. And it's, yeah. And it's also, as a little story, as an environmentalist, I feel with nature. That's my identity is there.
Yeah.
And now maybe 15 years ago, I was sitting meditating, and suddenly I was moved into the field of humanity. And it was an energetic sense, and I knew that was happened, but I didn't understand it. It was just weird. Okay, I am moved. And then I went out the next morning, and I met another human being, and we had a new relation. It was strange. It was, oh, we are both humans in a new way. And then I met a bird, and we had a new relation. I was a human, and we had still it was a loving relation, but it's changed. It was what's going on. And then I started to talk to people. And when I talk to my environmental friends, they have this humanity is them. I don't belong. It hurts too much because I feel when the trees are cut down, when the rivers are. I feel that. So I can't be part. I can't hold that guilt.
No,
it's not me. It's not me. I'm not part. And then you have the human people who see that these are resources for us. It hurts when people are hurt, when people don't get food or resources, it hurts for them. And they can't really feel when the trees are cut down, because that would cause blame or guilt in them. So you have this shift, because we can't hold both the feeling the destruction and taking that we are part of it. But we need that, and we need to see we are both part of it and both of it. And yeah, it's very obvious that division and that is there, and it just has to be healed.
And again, and that means that the another element of the power of wider embraces is that it brings it all together. It brings the physical, it brings the biological, and it brings the cultural, and it brings us into a place beyond judgment, beyond blame.
Yes, the embraces are always unconditional. There is no no discernment. It's, and just as me as Stina, I don't have a discernment about myself, or I don't like that one. It's me. It's all me, and it's and the unconditional quality is really, really key.
And I wonder if you've had experiences of people who bring a lot of anger, who bring a lot of pain.
Yes.
And very legitimate anger, very important anger, anger that needs to be seen, to be received, and for it to be expressed, and for that person to be seen in their anger, and to for it to be to potentially become a force for transformation. I wonder if you've, I'm sure you've had that experience many times. And
a lot
wonder,
go ahead.
No, I just wonder how you can say how that has been, wider embraces is able to hold that and use that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what normally happens is that people don't really go there, or but everyone that do, and they come back, they do it another time, go a little bit further, and for each time, when you really are able to be, rest in that embrace and be the embrace of humanity, for example, it's so healing. And if, because it's true, and it's we are one humanity, so that's also true. And then all the struggle is also true. And what I also like with the wider embraces is that, I mean, some spiritual traditions have this, that this world is not true. It's the real thing is the embraces or the transcendent, and so you check out, sort of. And I see the world as it's both this, that the manifest is what's creating the embraces, and the embraces is what creating the parts. It's objects and subjectivity. It's inside, outside. It's one thing. You can't check out. Personally, you of course you can see it in a forest on a stone, but it is one reality. And yes, that's the whole point.
And that's what I get very strongly. It's wider embraces is founded in and designed to oriented to the reintegration of spirit and matter together,
Yes.
and making the spirit material and making matter sacred, making the physical sacred, the political sacred, or the cultural sacred. And that's, why I find it such a beautiful offering that you've brought to the world. So I wonder, as we wrap it up, like, how, if people have heard this and really intrigued and they want to experience this, what they can do, what can they do?
They can go to the website, widerembraces.org, and there will be information if you're one of these people who want to know more, and you can join meetings online. We have several meetings every week. So you're very welcome. It's because you can't understand it, you have to do it. It's just when we are speaking, it's I'm on this intellectual, it's a speaking term, and I really have to switch. It's very hard to be both at the same time, and it's really something else. You see from a different place. So
Absolutely.
And I think it's really important. The more people do this, the more we can build those structures and actually heal on all levels, align ourselves, everything.
I agree. I think this has been a conversation that has drawn so many insights into developing an answer to these questions. How did we break? Especially the second question, how do we heal? And I think it's just so important, the work that you're doing. So I want to express my gratitude and thank you.
Thank you for doing this podcast and having me and spreading. It's really important. Thank you.